You don't need to get the whitest or the most expensive animal. As long as you get good lineage and pair it together, like, you'll have success.
Hey, welcome back to the Gecko Cove Connection, the Gargoyle Gecko podcast. My name's Bobby, and today I get to interview Paige from Cosmic Exotics. Cosmic Exotics produces some of the best gargoyles in the game, whether that be her six stripes or what I would consider her ultra blotches. I have tried to study and emulate what Paige does with her geckos from the very beginning. I've gathered a ton of inspiration from her website, combing through all the different breeders that she has, looking at the lineage, and so I am going to geek out with Paige today about her geckos, trying to absorb as much information as possible, share some tips, and just have a lot of fun. So if that sounds interesting to you, then you're in the right place. Welcome to Gecko Cove. All right, welcome back to the Gecko Cove Connection. Today, I am really excited to introduce Paige from Cosmic Exotics, one of my absolute favorite breeders in the gargoyle world. Welcome, Paige.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, I've, really wanted to have you on since day one. I'll get into kind of my history following you from really when I started looking at gargoyles. Yours was one of the first websites that I actually stumbled upon, and it really gave me a lot of great information as well as some inspiration. But before we dive into that, I'd love to just kind of learn more about you. So can you kind of give us, we'll just ask the standard question at this point, what kind of led you into the reptile world? What started you in geckos, and how did Cosmic Exotics come to be?
Oh, I can go really far back if you want. The long
story
or the short story. So growing up, I was one of those kids who always loved catching frogs, turtles, snakes. My parents loved to tell the story of when I was a little kid. Instead of having a lemonade stand, I had a bug stand. Tried to sell my neighbors a bunch of bugs. So they always tell me how, we had our neighbors walk by. They were all excited to get some lemonade, and then I was trying to give them spiders instead.
That's amazing. Did anybody buy the spiders?
Not spiders, but I did sell some roly-polies, which I was way ahead of the time. I'm not into isopods now, but they're a big hit.
I was going to say, you could have started with that and been like the person in that by now.
I know.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Ahead of your time.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the first reptile that I owned was a bearded dragon, like a lot of people. I don't remember how young I was, but really young. And I wanted one. I asked one for Christmas, for my birthday. And finally, my parents were like, all right, if you really want one, like, you can save up and buy it on your own. And I think I was probably like 9 or 10 at the time. So we added all the costs of like the cage, the habitat, the food. It ended up being, I remember, $300 was like my goal. So my parents were probably thinking like, she's never going to save up that much money. She's 9 or 10. And I think I was saving for about a year when it was like a twist of fate. We were at a pool and I was swimming and I found a $100 bill in the pool.
And at that age, that is like winning the lottery.
It really felt like it. I remember I was like shaking. I was so excited. So not too long after that, we went to the pet store. We bought everything. My parents were smart about it. They were like, we got to get it all set up, make sure, it looks good. So I remember just being in my room, like staring at the tank, being so excited to go back to the pet store to pick out my bearded dragon. So that was Spike.
That's awesome.
He was my first. And then shortly after that, I convinced my dad that I needed a female to breed with him. So we ended up going to Tinley Park. And this had to be like at least 20 years ago. I actually looked it up today because I remember when the movie Holes came out. They used bearded dragons.
They're venomous there.
Yeah. Yep. So everyone was like, oh, did you hear about this movie? They're using bearded dragons. And that came out in 2003. So about 20 years ago. We went to Tinley Park. Yep. Looking for one bearded dragon, ended up coming back with 3 and another tank.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was my first experience. And I had them for a while. Then in high school, like I got into sports, was busy with school. So I didn't keep up with it, went to college. And then in nursing school, I ended up getting a pet chameleon. He was awesome, but as I'm sure you know, their chameleons are really kind of not high maintenance, but they they have very specific care requirements. And
sure,
I was, kind of
they think they're low maintenance.
Yeah. I was basically brand new into reptiles again. So I quickly figured out, this isn't, if I go home from the weekend, like this isn't something that I can just leave at my house at school for the weekend. So I wanted something a little bit easier and stumbled across gargoyle geckos. I bought my first one from Andy from Gray Sky Exotics. I don't know if you've ever checked out her page.
I have, yes.
Yeah. And so I bought it online in like December, January. So in Michigan, you can't really ship during that time of the year. Mm-mm. And then while I was waiting, I bought like 3 more.
Nice.
And then here I am today.
I know what that's like.
Yep.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. So, okay, I am very familiar with a lot of the geckos that you have on your website. Was that first gecko one of those?
Yes, Sarah.
Sarah? Very cool.
Yep. And then Saint, one of my original male, he was one that I just picked up locally, like soon after I put a deposit down on Zara.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's fun. So, okay. So you pick up your first gargoyle gecko. And I have to ask, you didn't start with crested geckos?
No, nope. I just got my first crested gecko a few months ago.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've had 1 or 2 here and there, but I sold them off to invest in the Gargs. And I actually was just gifted my first adult crested gecko. Okay. I've always had babies and never kept them to adulthood. And it's a 7-year-old pet store gecko. I think it might be a cappuccino.
Oh, really?
It looks, yes, I've showed it to a few breeders. And so I might have just been gifted a free older male cappuccino. Probably not. Yeah. But who knows? That'd be a cool first gecko to get, right?
I know,
especially
it happens.
For free.
Right. Yeah.
It does. Everything checks out, time-wise. But anyway. So, okay, you started with the gargoyle geckos, which I love. Mm-hmm. And you've definitely specialized in it. Now, from the very beginning, did you pick out certain traits that you liked better? Did you like the blotches, the stripes? Did you have a goal in mind? Because it sounded like, did you breed those bearded dragons earlier or
like, not? Yeah. I mean, I think I was in like 5th or 6th grade. So this was like 20 years ago.
Right.
So
I would be impressed.
Yeah. I did breed them though, actually.
You did?
Yes. Yeah. So again, like my dad let me borrow money when we went to Tinley Park to buy the extra lizards. And I was able to pay them all back. They did like buy all the crickets and everything, like all the fruits and vegetables. But I bought like the lights. They can eat a ton. Yeah, they do. So it probably, I mean, yeah, I don't know if we actually profited off them, but I was able to pay them back.
But how cool is it to do that with your dad? That's awesome. Go Dad.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Okay, so did you have breeding in mind? Obviously, picking up that many geckos right away.
Originally no, but then I was like, I'll get a couple more, and I actually got like a second part-time job in college to start paying for my gecko addiction.
Yep.
And for a while, it was very much just a hobby. Like I didn't have any plans to try and make it into a business. I was in nursing school at the time, so after I graduated, I was pretty busy with that. I had like moved to a different city. I was having a lot of fun, and the geckos were a fantastic hobby, but they weren't my main focus. Sure. And then I got pregnant in 2020, and we found out we were having twins.
Oh, congratulations, by the way.
So after that, we were kind of trying to figure out like how we were going to do this. Like, do we find a daycare? Do we try and find a nanny? Do I stay home from work? And my mother-in-law was actually like, well, do you think you could turn your geckos into a business? And I was like, oh, no. And then I kind of thought about it, and it was right when the market was taking off, like mid-2020. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know what? Like, maybe I could. And childcare for 2 babies is not cheap.
Oh, it's insane. Yeah.
So
I've got 2 boys myself under 4, so I'm in the same boat.
Yeah, yes. And now we have a 6-month-old as well. So like 3 under 3.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. So it's so basically 2021 is when I was like, all right, I'm going to try and ethically profit off this. And at the time, like 2020, I was still pretty small. So I held back a bunch of geckos. I've been slowly growing. Last year, I did really well. This year, the market's a little bit different, but we set a goal
I like how you
of
put that.
Yeah, what I needed to make to kind of make the switch from full-time nursing to this isn't full-time for me because the boys take up a lot of my time, but
yes,
it is part-time.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. I mean, like you said, just even to compare, right? Selling geckos versus nursing, probably a little bit different.
Yeah.
But that staying home with your kids, do they love hanging out and helping mom? You know, at least the older ones.
So the 2.5-year-olds, one of them loves the geckos. He's like obsessed. He'll hold them. He loves coming down here, like begs me to come. I have them all in my basement. The other one, not interested in the geckos, but he loves like dumping out my supplements. He loves like spraying the hose everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my 4-year-old. He's like, he loves spraying the hose all over his brother, and yeah,
exactly.
It's a good time.
Yes.
So, little kids, if we can get them addicted,
yeah,
fantastic. It just fuels our hobby, so that's
Absolutely.
great.
Yeah, I'm hoping maybe 10 years down the road they can come to shows with me, help me vend. I don't. I've heard there's like lots of tax breaks if you employ your own family. So
yep, we're thinking of the same things. I love this.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So if you figure it out first, let me know, and I'll do the same.
Okay.
So that's awesome. Well, okay, so you've got this going. We're making a little small business out of it. Obviously, 2020, 2021, even last year, it's just booming. So reinforcing that this was a great choice.
Yeah.
This year, a little bit different. And but still, I've seen a lot of your stuff going, posted, selling. So it's not a dead market for sure.
No, not at all. It's it's just different in the past, a year ago from now. You couldn't post things fast enough on Morph Market. They go right away.
I tried to get one of yours. They'd be gone.
Yeah. And this year they're selling slowly, but they're still selling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah.
So, okay, you've got some amazing 6 stripes. You've got, I have to say, some of the best. They're not even, any kind of normal blotch. They're an ultra blotch, in my opinion. The coverage on yours are amazing. Did you have that in mind in the beginning? Where I want to know your recipe. I'm also a big foodie, so I look at things as recipes.
Sure.
And all these different ingredients. What's your recipe? What were your thought process when pairing? Can you kind of walk me through some of that?
Yeah. So I feel like gargoyle geckos have changed so much in the past 10 years. I got my first one the end of 2013, so I haven't been doing it for quite 10 years, but really close. And it's just crazy what people are producing now. The average a nice looking red stripe now was like incredible back then. The things that have been hatching out of the eggs this year, I would have never dreamed that I would be producing. It's really come a long way. So I'm trying to think back in like 2013. Blotches have always been my favorite. The red stripes are great too, but I really do love blotches. And I know
they're just unique.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. Paul from Rack House, I think, had some really nice blotches way back then, but they weren't as popular or as common still. My t-shirt, actually, she's not in the hobby anymore, but I think her name was Sunny. She was one of the first people that I really took inspiration from. She still has an Instagram page called Gecko Talk. I don't think she's posted in like 5 years, but even looking back on it now, like her geckos were gorgeous. So I just tried to find like the best blotches I could and then paired those together. But blotches are a little bit trickier, in my opinion, than red stripes. Like if you pair 2 really nice red stripes together, you're going to get nice red stripes, maybe even nicer ones. Where I've had a few blotch pairs like really hit and consistently produce really nice stuff, but sometimes like my best blotches are from 2 red stripes.
Interesting. Yeah. So I right now my breeders, I've got 3 female. So if anybody's listening to this podcast and my other episodes, I apologize if I'm repeating stories. But my best stripe right now paired up with an okay male, really nice quad stripe. The best blotches I've gotten this year. I've gotten four babies right now. 2 of them are just amazing blotches. So it's crazy how you get that.
Yeah.
I don't know how far back the lineage goes. That I've heard 5 generations.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm trying to think, like my favorite blotch that I've produced is from a red 6-stripe male that came from 2 stripes. So at least grandparents are still stripes. And then the mom she's like kind of like an aberrant. She's like a mix between like a stripe and a blotch. Like, to be completely honest, like, she's pretty, but she's not anything crazy. But she's produced a lot, or is like at least related to a lot of my best blotches. She also produced Airglow, which is the sire to a lot of my red blotches.
Yep.
And then I paired her with a different male and got this my favorite blotch I've ever produced, just like this crazy male that should be ready to go this upcoming year in 2024. So I'm really excited
that's exciting.
to see what happens. Yeah.
Do you mind if I ask what that one's name is?
Yeah. Brouhaha.
Yes.
Yes.
I love that name.
Yeah.
So that's the gecko I posted for your giveaway.
Yes. Yeah.
Earlier and tagged you in it. And I had an insane amount of people contact me going, "Oh my God, that's the best gecko ever. Where did you get it?" And I'm like, "It's not mine. Read the post. Please read the post." I gave you credit 100%, but it was just funny.
Yeah.
How much, like, I had people from Korea contacting me going, "Where can I buy that off of you?" And I'm like, no, like, it's not mine.
I know. I'm like, I'd only sell them for an insane amount of money that no one's going to be willing to pay. Some geckos are so special to me. I'm like, they're worth more to me than I think they'd be to other people.
Yeah. There's just a few. My girl Eve, I've been offered $7,000 for her.
Yeah.
And that's when I was first starting. And looking back, I probably should have taken it for $7,000.
Now I know where the market's gone now.
Exactly. But she's priceless.
Yeah.
She's staying with me until she dies.
I know. Like,
so
I will always have like my Czar and Saint. Those first 2 geckos I got, they'll be with me for their entire lives.
Yeah. And we would love to keep all the babies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we definitely want to hoard them, but we got to say goodbye sometimes.
Yes.
It's hard.
Yes. It is hard.
So
I have trouble letting go.
Yes. So speaking of that, all right. So we're producing these amazing geckos. Do you look at lineage? Do you look at just kind of, I've heard some people, you said some of your best blotches come from 2 stripes. Do you ever pair stripes and blotches together? Like, what's your strategy there?
I do. Yeah. So I think like, when I first started out, I just kind of took 2 pretty geckos and put them together. Now I definitely have more of a goal in mind, but it's not necessarily pick the 2 best 6 stripes I have and pair them together. I'll look at color, contrast, base color, and then pattern as well, depending on what I want to get. So I have a really nice blotch growing up from someone else that came from a really nice red stripe pair that I plan on pairing to my male flare, who is probably my favorite 6 stripe that I've produced. He's just really like neon bright. Like, the pictures of him I feel like look fake, but that is how he looks in person. So I'm hoping to get from that pairing a mix of nice blotches that will be unrelated to a lot of mine, and then hopefully some really nice 6 stripes as well. So that's going to be a project for probably 2025.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Just to get a scope of how many geckos are you breeding currently?
I had, I think, 28 females that I bred last year with like 6 or 8 males. I think I paired like 2 to 3 females per male. Okay. And then this.
And do you guys? Go ahead.
This next year, I think I have 35 or 36 that I'll be breeding, depending on one's a little bit below the weight I'd like to see her at. So hoping she's already, she's close to 3 years already. She's just a little bit on the smaller side. So as long as she can just gain like a few more grams, I'm planning on pairing her as well.
Just eat your bugs for me, please.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay, that actually leads me into a great question. All right. All the new breeders out there are always asking. I know that the stock answer is it depends.
Mm-hmm.
Depends on you and your style as far as the breeding tips. But I want to know how you do your stuff. How old do you need your geckos to be to breed them? You just mentioned 3 years. What's the weight for male and female? What do you recommend when you're trying to get the best production out of your geckos?
Yeah. So 3 years isn't my rule of thumb. I'll pair them at 2 years as long as they're up to weight. And I like to see them laying at least like 1 or 2 clutches of duds and keeping their weight up. So she's been laying duds for a while. So I don't know if she's going to, I mean, everyone says like, oh, they've got to be 50 grams or, but I think geckos are kind of like people, like they don't come in all shapes and sizes. So some,
I like that. Yeah.
Some I think like are full grown at 45, 50 grams. I know people who have been breeding for a few years and their 45-gram geckos are great producers. They produce great offspring and that's just the size they are. I also think like they keep growing for a while. A lot of my females that are 10 years old, they're still producing great and they're up to like 70 grams, 80 grams now. But when I started 6 years ago, they were more at that 50-gram range. So I guess for me, at 2 years, 45 to 50-ish grams. And then
is ideal.
Yeah. And I'll be happy if they've laid a couple of dud clutches and they've maintained their weight or at least gained it back really quickly and they look healthy.
Okay. What about for your males? Is that a little bit simpler?
Yeah. Similarly, like 45 grams. I don't feel like they need to be quite as large as the females. I've done like a few at like when they're close, 42, 43 grams.
Especially that male you really want to get in the circulation.
Yeah. They're, Brouhaha is up to weight. He will be good to go.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. My crazy red base, red blotch that I got from, Renee King. Yeah. She blessed me with this gecko.
Oh my gosh. She has incredible geckos.
Oh, she just posted a picture today of a gecko that looks just like him, but it's got eyebrows. And I'm like, I mean, seriously, just take my kidney. Yeah. You know, like I don't even have any more money. Just take organs. But she's got some amazing stuff. But with that, he's stuck sort of at like 25 grams. And I'm like, no matter what, I think I needed to heat back up because I find that they grow a little bit faster during the summer.
Yes.
And then it's a lot slower in the winter, especially where I am.
Yes. Yeah.
So they'll hit it when they hit it. You know,
right.
I'm not going to force feed them or anything else like that. So it is what it is.
How warm do you keep your geckos?
So I have a space heater. I keep it around 75 in my, it's an open room. Yeah. I don't have an enclosed room, which is hard because then I'm fighting my central air system and my wife doesn't like that.
Yes.
But, right. But eventually I'll try to find another space in the house. I've got enough rooms, but it's just kids come first. So I think I'm going to steal the nursery after the kid grows up a little bit.
Well, when I first started, it was like, oh, they do great at room temperature. Don't add any heat. It's dangerous. So the first couple years I followed that. But you know, we're a little bit more northern. I'm in Michigan. Like it's cool in the winter. Like our rooms can get down to the 60s, like even low 60s. And that's, in my opinion, way too cold for them.
It is.
And since I've added supplemental heat, they do so much better. They grow faster. They're more energetic. They look better.
Do you keep your room hotter or do you put heat bulbs or how do you add the heat?
So I've been experimenting and trying different things. When for a while, what I did was bins and I had them kind of on a rack with a little bit of heat tape underneath that was set up to a thermostat.
Oh yeah.
And it worked great for me. but I've since moved on to the PVC cages. The past
Looking nice.
2 years, I used bigger PVC cages and I did groups, which worked, but I liked keeping them individually better. So I've switched to this.
Okay.
And
So what size are those?
they're a custom size. They're from DW Geckos. They are about 20 gallons exactly. They're 20 inches high, 22 inches deep, and then just under 12 inches wide.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I already had these racks and I was like, how can I, I was looking at the pre-made ones and I was like, I wonder if I could like really maximize my space. And Leland was able to work with me and I love them. I'm really happy with them so far.
They look amazing. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So
So now I'm just using like the PVC holds heat so much better than glass. So I get a really nice gradient in there with UVB, and the top is like right around 80 degrees. Then the bottom is during the day, like around 75. But when the lights go off at night, it cools right down to like 70, 72. So that's like how my temperatures have been this summer. I haven't used them in the winter. It does get a little bit cooler, but I'm in the basement and we have our furnace in here. So I don't think it'll get much cooler than like 67, even at night.
Well, that's the nice thing about a basement. It's pretty stable.
Yeah.
So year round, even with the fluctuation outside, you're insulated from the giant swings.
The only thing that changes in here is the humidity, which is a whole nother thing. It's like 60 degrees humidity, maybe even more in the summer, and then like 30 degrees in the winter. Yeah,
you run that central air up here in the north, and it just sucks the humidity out of the air.
Yeah.
So
we don't have like AC, but our baseboard heating, same thing. It becomes very dry.
Well, it's all stuck in the snow,
right?
So obviously you've got the misting system up there.
Yeah.
I do want to go back just because we talked about. You mentioned that you went from groups to individual again. So that's something that I've kind of played around with when I first started looking into breeding. Everybody that was big and really successful was doing groups. Even the local guy that I got my very first two girls from, he had a beautiful, huge enclosure with 4 females and 1 male in there. And, it works. Obviously it works. But why did you go back to one-on-one? What are the advantages there that you saw? And does that mean I need to buy more males?
So the groups, the advantages, I guess, you keep the male with the females I kept them the entire season. So I had people telling me like they'll lay better, you won't get as many duds. What I had been doing prior with the tubs is just rotating the male as long as he kept up his weight. And wasn't, I've, knock on wood, not like had a lot of problems with aggression. I did lose a couple tails in the groups, which I don't like. I like my original tails. So that was a big reason. Yeah. And I mean, I don't want them to get beat up. I want them to be happy. So I had never experienced anything like that before.
Okay.
And just by rotating my male, like I had pretty good success doing that. So I didn't really see an improvement with the groups. And then you asked before if I keep track of lineage. I love lineage.
Yeah.
I do think there is some value, a lot of value of knowing the lineage when you're breeding animals, but also I just think it's like a lot of fun. I love like the same. I can't take credit for the idea of like my website. I pretty much copied it from Kylie at Gargoyle Queen Reptiles. When I first started, I think I did the same exact thing as you and like looked through like all the lineage of every single one of her geckos. I think she's a little bit bigger and a little bit busier now, so I don't think it's quite as updated, but I still love to drool over her geckos and look back at all the pictures.
It's so true. And yeah, definitely. It's one of those things. So keep a lookout for a new video from me. I'm going to be showing a few websites, including Cosmic Exotics, because honestly, they're great. I love the lineage. Also, who doesn't like a family tree, right? It's fun to do that for yourself. If you can do that with the geckos, if you listen to this podcast, you know that my family has some history with dog breeding and just knowing all the different lines. Now, we're not going to go and, have a gecko AKC kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to just, if you're selling an animal, especially a higher end animal, right?
Yeah.
And if, say, I was to buy a new male from you tomorrow, I think it's so cool to know I can see what the parents look like. If I can see the grandparents, even better.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're people like Gargoyle Queen, where I could see the great grandparents, I mean, then when somebody asks, where did this blotch come from? I have no idea. It was a double stripe pairing. Oh, well, great grandpa had that, So I think that's really cool. Plus the genetic, there's not a lot of genetic diversity when we really think about it, right? We took them out of the wild in I don't know. I have no idea. If anybody knows how many geckos we started with that are here in the U.S., please put it in the comments. But honestly, we're not getting any more. And so when you're breeding the best of the best every single time, you're bound to get kind of a funnel neck. So to know that your geckos are a little bit more genetically diverse, I think is a great thing for future longevity.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you can look back a few generations and know that you're not like mixing any of the more recent bloodlines, I think you can feel good about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you'd be surprised in groups how many females lay clutches the same exact night. Like I'll see one laying, I'm like, I checked that lay bin today.
Yeah.
So I know there wasn't anything in there. Like so-and-so's laying tonight. Then I go back the next day and there's 4 eggs in there. And I'm like, oh no. Or if you just, I tried to keep track of the weights of all my females really closely. So, if I was like, well, I don't know exactly who this was from, I could weigh them and I'd be like, all right, she lost 5 grams. It must have been from her. But I don't have as much time as I used to. So that was getting to be a little bit tricky. And I do have I've sold a few geckos where I'm like, I don't know exactly which dam it was. But now with this system, I will be 100% sure, which I'm really excited about.
That's awesome. So you said you kind of rotate the males in because you have far less males than you do females. How long do you leave them in at a time?
I usually leave them in for 3 days to about a week. And then I would just, when, if he was with 2 or 3 females, like as soon as the next female lays, then I'd move him into that enclosure. And yeah, I guess sometimes it might even be longer than a week because I'd rotate as soon as another female laid a clutch. As long as he wasn't just moved to the previous box, I'd move him like a few days later. So he had at least like 3 or 4 nights in that enclosure and just kind of leave them alone and let them do their thing.
So I don't want to gloss over the point. I think I've heard this once before, and as a newbie, I would have missed this. You're pairing the males right after the female lays a clutch.
Yeah.
Why?
I've just found that if you're a little bit late, there's a possibility that you'll get duds the next time. So yeah, I don't know the science behind it, like when they're cycling, like when they're, I don't know, ovulating or fertile. I don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
That's just what I know has worked for me.
Yeah, you're not the only person who's told me that. And obviously, like I'm not a biologist. I don't know anything about the cycle other than they have eggs. They become available to have fertile eggs right after they lay their last clutch. And I think you're just giving maximum amount of possibility there. So you're playing the odds.
Yeah.
I think that's basically what you're doing, which is great. Because I've definitely paired up some geckos. I started off keeping them in the tubs, and then everybody's like, get them out of there. They don't need to be in there all season. And I hear contradictory, take them out, put them in, take them out, put them in, cycle them. So it's confusing when you're first starting. I think that's where you can do what works for you. Right. But I found you need to have the males in there obviously when it's needed, right? And you're not always going to be able to rely on them retaining sperm. I think that's something that crested geckos do a little bit better in my experience, or what I've heard.
I don't have experience with them, but I have heard something similar where they pair them and they're good for the whole year. They pair them like mid-season. But gargoyles don't lay as many eggs. I think my record was like 6 or 7 clutches, and that was like one insane female. I don't have anyone who's like done anything close to that. I mean, so I don't really want to take the chance of getting duds.
No, if they're going to lay eggs, at
Yeah,
least let them be
right.
fertile. It's the same energy. So, okay, what do your seasons look like? You said a really good season is 6 clutches. That's an insane
Yeah,
season. How many do you normally get from just a typical female? Set my expectations for
it
next year.
varies so much. So I know this is your first season. You've been maybe a little
Yep.
underwhelmed with the amount of eggs that you've gotten, or at least fertile
With
eggs.
most of my females, but one I'm
Okay,
happy.
totally normal. That first year, I feel like is just like they're just getting their legs under them. I think if you get like a couple babies from a first year female, that's great.
Yep.
Otherwise, I'm trying to think. I think like when I try and do my math, I say like maybe I'll average like 5 healthy babies per female after that first year.
That's
Yeah.
good. Okay.
And some I get a
Yeah.
lot more than that. Some like my pair that's been producing like the very nicest red stripes. Her first season was last year. I got 3 babies. I was happy. This year I've gotten 1, and I think I have only 1 more fertile egg from her. So she's yeah. But it is, that's totally fine.
I feel like it's like, if you want it so badly, they're just like,
Yeah.
no. It's like they're a parent, when your kids are like, I need to have it right now. You're like, no, we're going to teach you a lesson on patience. My geckos are going to teach me a lesson on patience.
And I've had like experienced females just like take a whole season off and just give me duds all the entire year. And I'm like, oh, like maybe you guys don't like each other. And then I kept them together just because I was like, I don't know what's going on. And the next year, like she had, I think like 7 or 8 babies that hatched out. So
yeah,
I don't know.
They made up. There you go. And that's the kind of the fun of it. They're not robots, they're not widgets that we're pumping out. And that's why when you do hatch out that amazing baby, it's just 10 times
so
better.
Exciting. Yeah. Yeah. And it's fun when you're not getting like, I mean, getting 10 babies from a pairing would be cool. I'm not saying that wouldn't be cool, but it is really special. Like when you only get 2 or 3 of like these of babies from one of your favorite pairings, like those babies are really special. They're all special, but those are especially special.
Those are extra special. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And those are the ones we hold back and hoard and, cry if we have to let them go because someone offers us a ridiculous amount of money for them. So hopefully. And also I think it's a nice thing with the gargoyles versus, some other species that are more popular. Because they don't reproduce at such a rapid pace, I feel like they're going to have some longevity to them. We're not going to see as wild of swings. I think that even in today's market, the economy plays more of a factor rather than the geckos playing a factor, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
it's going to be a little bit harder to like flood the market. There's just,
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the hobby's growing. I remember when I started, I joined the Gargoyle Gecko Facebook page, and I think there was only like 300 members at the time, and I think last I checked there's like 10,000 or something, so it's grown quite a bit.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, all right, if there's 10,000, I'm going to post this video. Come on, let's subscribe, like, do all that fun jazz. If you're in that group, support it right here, all right?
Have you posted to that group? I don't check it very often.
I have.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. So no, I probably overpost sometimes where people kind of make it a little bit more white noise, but that's okay.
Exposure is good. I'm one of those people where I'm like, I'll check that out. And finally, like the 7th time it hits me in the face, I'm like, I'm going to do it now. Finally.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, okay. So I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the other phenotypes in the hobby and what your thoughts are on them, whether you're going to be working with them, whether you're kind of just keeping to what you're currently doing. But really right now we've got the blotches, the super blotches, ultra blotches. You've got your stripes, quad stripes. I love the 6 stripes. And then that ranges in quality. Now you're starting to see not just lipstick, but, eyebrows. I've got one that's got, I call it like ridges. But also then there's also skeletons. Am I missing anything as far as phenotypes? I mean, that's pretty much it, isn't it?
Yeah, I I don't get like too crazy with like the blotches versus super versus ultra, because I feel like it's very subjective, and sometimes, you
It
know, you'll
is.
be on Morph Market and or I've seen on the Facebook group someone say, look at the super blotch that I just bought, and I'm like, it's a pretty gecko, but it's not something that I would consider a super blotch.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, they're pretty basic. Yeah, blotches and stripes are kind of basically
Basically.
it.
And then
Yeah.
what do you think of the skeletons?
They're really cool. I really
Mm-hmm.
like them. I've maybe made a couple purchases this year that are, I'm
Ah.
hoping to start a better project with them. I have a few females that maybe aren't quite a perfect skeleton, but they have like a lot of that dorsal blotching. So I've found a couple, or one male that's unrelated to any of my blood that I will be breeding this next season, and I don't think I've posted him anywhere. So
Very
yeah,
cool. Very nice. Well, you'll have to show me a picture when we get off
absolutely,
of this.
yeah,
So.
yeah. But yeah, the skeletons are really
Excellent.
cool. I'm curious to see where that goes. I hatched out one baby that has really nice eyebrows. I'm excited to see where that project
Ooh,
goes.
nice.
Talking with some of the breeders in Korea, they've said that a lot of times the eyebrows kind of fade as they get older.
Okay.
And it kind of like
I can
they've
see
shown me
that.
pictures of the babies and the adults. So we'll see. I think it'll take probably a few generations to really get the eyebrows to stick into adulthood. But I think that's a really fun, exciting project because the eyebrows are so striking.
They are. They're absolutely gorgeous. And I just think anything that leads us closer to having more coloration on the head is that's the next frontier, because some of those blotches, especially yours, they're covered. I mean, they're ridiculously covered.
Yeah. I mean, or just the six stripes, like the full true six stripes. I think you were talking about that in one of the previous shows, like not just lateral color, but like the stripes
Yes.
are really new, and like they weren't there, or there were very few of them a few years ago, and now they're becoming more popular. Like after just selective breeding, the stuff that's popping out is crazy. So I'm hoping with blotches with those eyebrows we can do the same thing. And like you said, I agree. The head covering is going to be what's coming next.
Yeah. And we'll see, there might be some, actual genetic morphs coming out, whether it be, a hypo next or if that clown project kind of works out. But that's just speculation. So I don't know what
Fingers
I'm talking
crossed, 'cause
about
that would
whatsoever
be really
with
cool.
that. You want to talk about a jump in people just buying into gargoyles. That will do it 100%. But I think they're becoming more popular from what I can tell. I think people are really learning how gorgeous they are, and I don't have to sell them to you. You know how great they are. So very cool. Do you have any other goals for the next year as far as your breeding projects? Anything you're really looking forward to, a certain pairing?
I think I kind of touched on them. I've let me think about it. That blotch that I have from other lines that come from really nice red stripe lines. I'm really excited to see what she does with my male flare. I have Bellini, one of my six stripes from 2022 that's growing up. I'm trying to figure out who I'm going to pair her with. Probably flare again, because they're unrelated. And they're like two of my very best productions. So that's pretty exciting. I'm trying to think of what else. I don't know. A lot. I have a lot that I'm excited about, but they're all like a couple years ahead. Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, some of the little grow
I'm trying
kids.
To figure out, like, I haven't made all my pairings for 2024 just yet, so ask me again in like a couple months, and then I will have solid
We'll have
answers
to have you back on just for that. No, that is fair. That's fair. Well, one thing that we have in common, obviously, we're both up in the northern part of the United States. You hear a lot about the season, right? Breeding season versus cooling season. And I feel like it's very locale specific. So if someone's in colder climate, like we are, do you have an exact like time when you pair, time when you separate? You're rotating your males, but when do you just fully take them
Yeah.
away? Do you have rough estimates for
I
those?
separate them. Well, if I'm repairing them again the next year, I'm comfortable leaving them together throughout the winter.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's good to know.
I haven't, again, knock on wood, I haven't had any issues with it. I think as long as you give them enough space and enough hides, they seem to do well. Uh, but I'll usually pull the males if I'm switching all the pairings in the beginning of September. So I just did it a few weeks ago. It might have been a little bit earlier this year, just with the change of enclosures. And then I repair
Okay.
them in like mid to late December. So a little bit early,
Okay.
but they don't usually start laying eggs until March for me. Like I think like
Okay.
March is when they kind of start, and I feel like the season really picks up not until like June. Um, so yeah, I'd say from like June, July, August is when like breeding season's really heavy when you're pulling eggs every day. And then kind of on the tail end of the
Yep.
season, like March through June, September through sometimes I'll even get like a couple clutches in December. And then they really taper off like January, February, and then like start late March.
Okay.
At least is I mean, I don't know if it has to do with when you pair them with where you live. I absolutely think I mean it makes sense like if you are in Florida versus Michigan, it's going to be different.
Right.
But
Yep.
yeah.
I think just natural sunlight cycles. I mean, I know it looks like you've got your lighting on your enclosures. You're in a basement. I don't know if there's natural light, but
Yeah.
like for me, I've got a giant skylight
Okay.
right here, and so they get natural light every day in that cycle, and I supplement it with some
Okay.
LEDs. But it's on a cloudy day, it's pretty dark in
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
So
There's a few windows down here, so there's not a ton of natural light, but
mhm.
there definitely is some. And I've never kept them in a room with like no natural light, like no windows at all, but I've heard from
Mhm.
other people that it can impact their breeding season.
I also think that, the geckos are a little bit more sensitive to, I mean, people are too. I just don't think we pay attention to like barometric
Mhm.
pressure. One thing that I've noticed with my females just in this first year is that when I have a rainstorm, they lay their eggs. Like I get so excited when there's a giant storm. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've noticed that.
Or yeah, with crazy weather you get a lot of hatchlings. I didn't make that connection, but when someone else mentioned it to me, it clicked and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like I've never
Yeah.
put that together, but you're right."
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
kind of
it is
cool.
really
And I
cool.
get so disappointed when it rains and it's, you know, just junk outside, and I'm like, oh, it's horrible weather, and I don't get any new eggs. This is the worst.
Lose lose. Yeah.
So, yeah, exactly. Um, well, speaking also of lighting, you mentioned that the lighting behind you is that you said 5.0
It's
UVB.
this
Do you keep UVB on your
so
geckos?
that's something I started a few years ago. I do now. They're the 6.0 Arcadia, but I use ones that are a little bit
Oh,
older.
okay.
So I've used the fresh ones. I use them. I had a Bronia for a while. So I would put like
Ah,
the
okay.
fresh UVB on them and then move the older bulbs to the gargoyles. And when I had them, my
Very cool.
previous setup was 2x4s, and then I just put a divider in the middle, and I'd put like a 2 foot light in the middle. So they had like half the
Hmm.
enclosure had UVB and the other didn't, so they could kind of choose where they wanted to be.
So, other than just having it because you had the Abronia and you're like, man, why not use it? What benefit, we always hear they don't need it. So have you seen a difference in health or in activity, or have you not noticed anything? It's just kind of nice to have.
Um, I've not done any like real studies or research on them.
Oh, sure. Study of
Yeah,
one.
I would say, to be honest, I don't know. I haven't made the like I haven't figured out if it makes a really big difference yet. Some of them seem to like to bask under it, but
Sure.
I don't know if that's just like the light, the heat, or if they know they're getting UVB. Just from the reading that I've kind of done into it, I feel like as long as they have places to get away from the UVB, I think it can only benefit them. I don't think it can harm them. and they do a lot for me. They make me really happy. I have a lot of fun with them. They're helping my family financially, so I'd like to do right by them as well.
We spoil
We
them.
do.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I love it.
Very
cool.
Do I think is it 100% necessary? No, because I didn't use it for years, and this is a new thing for me. But
sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping they get some benefit out of it.
And I only ask because
not cheap.
it's not cheap.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And that's why I ask is, for someone just setting up, like, say that someone has, something like this, an Exoterra 1824, and they only have one or two geckos. Is it worth putting the UVB on? Especially if you only have one. My answer typically is, again, yes, because I don't think it would cost them that much with only one setup. But, once you start collecting them, like we always do, there has to be some normal people that just buy one gecko. I haven't met one yet,
right?
But they
some
have
people
to exist out there somewhere.
Yeah.
Yes, it's the same people that eat one Oreo and put back the package. It's just the other monsters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say if you're going to go in, like, I'd say heat's even more important than UVB. Yeah.
Yes. Because I do see them basking. I really try to, even with the cork that I have, you can kind of see it in this enclosure there, where I wedge it so that there's definitely some horizontal space. Because if I keep everything vertical, they'll hang out on it. But I find that those are their favorite perches. And if there's any sort of heat there, the heat rises, they love to hang out on there. In this enclosure here, I definitely have a little heat bulb. So it gets about 82 degrees in a basking area. And my red female just sits up there
when
all
I
the
use
time.
The heat tape, I'd have it set at like 85 sometimes. I mean, I think even for a while, like it wasn't 90 like in the tub, but it would get warm and they would absolutely use it. And I think there was like one time my sensor got dislodged and it got a little hot, and a couple of them looked like they maybe had like a little bit of burns on their tails. But other than that, like I didn't have trouble with it at all.
No, we're not dealing with bearded dragon heat, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say the benefits outweighed the cons, and you live and you learn. I made sure that the sensor was like very securely in place after that. Few pieces of tape, like tied it, a whole bunch of different things. So other than that one mishap, like it worked great for me, and I didn't have any extra lighting. And I had a lot of success in tubs with that underbelly heat.
Yeah, I'm hoping eventually, obviously, to get into a situation like yours where I would love enclosures like that, and that's a great size. So I might have to write that down after I rewatch this episode. But tubs work. They hold in the humidity. They work, and if you can provide some heat too, I think that they're definitely benefiting from it. The other thing I do, I don't know if you do this, but I provide calcium in a little dish for my females, and I see them just lap it up. That's kind of a cool thing.
That's really cool. I've never tried that, and I did hear that, and that is, I'm trying to figure out with my misting system exactly where I want to place it. I haven't implemented that yet, but it's something that I plan on trying. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, it's hard with the mist. That's the thing. Like when that just went off. When you have you're misting it, you're like, I'm going to turn this into paste pretty easily.
Yeah. So you've actually seen them using it. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, and sometimes just kind of put stuff in there, and if they just laid eggs, I mean, they'll almost clean the bowl. Like it's that much that they'll actually eat. Kind of interesting. And their eggs, I've never had any bad eggs. Again, I've got, I think, 12 total to talk about. But so far, no issues. Yeah. Even my duds are looking pretty good. So going back to kind of heat and doing a little pivot here, you've got gorgeous gargoyles, but also one thing I don't know if you know about me, I love Chahouas.
They are so cool.
Excuse me. And you have some gorgeous Chahouas.
Thank you.
I'm going to have a coughing attack right now just thinking of the Chihuahua. But my question is when did you get into those? Was it at the same time? And
I'm trying to think.
No,
I think I got my first ones in April of 2020. Or my first one, I should say, and they are super cool. Like, don't tell the gargoyles, but their personalities are the best.
Well, that's what I want to ask. So, okay, Gargs really well. Everybody listening to this podcast most likely is into gargoyles since it's a gargoyle podcast. And I don't want to poo-poo on any gargoyles.
No, absolutely.
I love them.
There's space
I'll
for
always
both
have
of
them. There's space for both. We will make room on our racks. But if you could tell our audience what's the biggest differences between gargoyles and chewies, if someone, let's just say a younger person can only get one because they're trying to convince their parents, which one would you go,
I'd probably say
again, you're going to have both.
Say the Chahouas.
Yeah. All right. So what's so is it their personality, their care? What's different?
If you're having it as a pet, like they're all so different. So hopefully you get a nice one because I have a few that are not nice. And you walk by their enclosure and they go and they stare at you and they're like, "Don't come near me." And I'm like, I'm a baby. I don't like getting bit. So I'm like sneaking my hand in there to put in their food bowls. But then you have some that are like, "Oh, hi." And they like jump up on the glass. You open the door and they crawl right out on your arm. And they're like, they're I don't want to say they're like social, but they seem to be social.
Like a bearded dragon almost.
Mean, like, I don't know if you can see, I might have, probably not. The Gargs will occasionally bask out in the open. Some of them more than others. Like some are out in the open. They have their own personalities too. Some I never see.
They do.
Some are out all the time. Some are 50-50. But like when I'm feeding, the Chihuahua are out. They're watching me. They're like checking me out. They move around. They're like awake more during the day. They bask more, so you see them more. And I know, like my friend Sarah from Artful Auricula Dactylus.
Yeah, I know.
Twister there. But she said
it was auriculatus. I'm gonna sound goofy too. We should know this.
I never took Latin, so
it's okay. I'll ask my principal. He taught Latin.
Well, I know, like now
he should know.
Chahouas, so I think that's like the correct Latin.
Thanks,
Latin terminology. Whatever. But she says like her male, like every time she'd walk by at night, he'd like jump to the glass and like beg for a dubia, and as soon as she gave it to him, he'd be like, "All right, thanks," and like go back in his conclusion. I don't know.
Hey, quickest way to a man's heart is through food, even Chihuahua.
Yeah. So they're pretty cool.
That's
I'd
awesome.
have a lot more if they weren't such a high price point. They're even more expensive than the Gargs. But I just hatched out my first clutch, so that's really exciting. I think I have
congrats.
5 more eggs, so hopefully a few of those hatch, and then I should have 5 pairings going next year. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, the ones that you have on your website are gorgeous. You got some beautiful white collars, and I was looking at is it ET geckos. They're also kind of local to me. I reached out because they actually just recently sold one to another person I'm interviewing. I won't give that away right now, but it was a gorgeous sort of dark base baby and a beautiful white collar. And I reached out. I'm like, this is fantastic. Which pairing? What's it going to look like? And the one thing that I've noticed with Chewies or heard about is that the babies stay kind of muted colors for longer. And then all of a sudden they'll reach like a maturity level and just blow up with color. And apparently this dark one would turn orange, eventually, which is kind of cool. But the transformation in Chewies is just so cool to see. And I think that's where lineage really does come into to play too.
I mean,
so
I've only been keeping Chihuahua for 3 years now, and I feel like even in those 3 years, like some of the geckos they've hatched out, like the white on them is from head to toe now. Head to tail tip. I don't know.
Yep. Well, that's hopefully my
Yeah.
next endeavor. I love the crested geckos, but I could see myself diving into the chewies well before I do a big crested gecko group. But so basically, I just want to be you in like 5 years. Would
Well,
that
yeah,
work?
it took me like 9 years to
You'll be
get
even
here,
more
so.
advanced.
Yeah.
Well, I'm old. I don't
Yeah.
have time for this. It's I'm trying to do the speed
Yeah.
version of it now. I'm trying to take my time with quality over
It's a good
quantity,
way to go.
but I
Yeah.
am laser focused on if I can buy a Chihuahua, I don't want to just buy the $500-600 ones because you can find some nice
Yeah.
ones like that. I want to buy the $2,000 one. I want to buy the
Yeah.
$3,000 one, and not that that's going to guarantee
No,
me
but
great
do it.
babies,
Yeah, do it
but
right.
I
I
don't
know
mind waiting.
I hear a lot of the really successful breeders say, like, you don't need to get the whitest or the most expensive animal as long as you get good lineage and pair it together, like you'll have success.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but I like pretty
I
things.
do too.
I surround myself with beautiful things. And so if I'm not in love with the actual animal that I'm breeding, I get the whole philosophy, and I've heard that so many times. Actually, I heard that today from somebody. I'm going to sell the gecko. And what happens if it's that really friendly one that I fall in love with? Anyway, so I joke, but it's true. With all my animals, I have Australian Shepherds, and I get compliments all the time on their blue eyes. So it's like, I'm vain. All right, I'll admit it. So it's okay. That's awesome. Well, like I said, I would love to be in your shoes. I think you've got some amazing experience that you've gathered. You've got some of the best gargoyles in the game. And I will eventually have to go and buy one or twist your arm for a trade. I don't know if I'm going to produce something nice enough to trade you, but who knows one day.
So I love trades. So yeah.
You love trade. Hey, that's great for me to hear. Very cool. Well, speaking about your geckos, I wanted to give you an opportunity. We talked a little bit earlier, sort of with your page. You're at how many followers right now?
I don't know the exact number, but I think I'm just a little over like 200 away from 5,000. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, we in episode 3 did a giveaway. We're not going to do necessarily me giving away anything. You don't have to do anything with this podcast, but if you do want to subscribe, leave a comment, that'd be great. But I just want to give you an opportunity to convince people to go and follow you and get you over that threshold.
Yeah,
so,
I'll be announcing it pretty soon, but I've never given away a gecko before. So this time I think I'm going to give away an actual gargoyle gecko. And excellent. I'll cover shipping and everything. So it'll be some fun thing again, like follow, share a picture. I don't know, the basics.
Very cool.
But yes, keep an eye out for that.
Keep an eye out for it. If I can, twist your arm after this to get a sneak peek picture, I'll post it right here. If it doesn't pop up, it means I didn't get it. That's okay. So, but definitely, we have a lot of fun on social media. I reached out through Instagram, so definitely go follow both of us on Instagram. Help us out, But other than that, I've had a lot of fun chatting with you today. I've learned a lot, and so I really appreciate your time. Where can people find you other than your Instagram handle?
I am sort of on Facebook, but not really. So reach out to me on Instagram, or my email is just cosmicexotics@gmail.com. I have a website, cosmicexotics.com, and then I'm on Morph Market as well. But Instagram's kind of my
awesome.
go-to. Yeah.
Your go-to. Perfect. And I'm going to, reiterate here, go check out her Morph Market right now. She has got some amazing, I'm not talking about middle of the road, I'm talking amazing gargoyles for sale right now. I was actually just looking at it earlier today, and one of your males, I think it's your most expensive male, if you took that guy and paired it with any two females that were a little bit cheaper, that would be a ridiculous trio.
He's nice. I've been holding on to him for a while, but I have another male from that pairing that's growing up that I like a little bit more.
Well,
like you said, you got to keep your
you can always just lend them to me if you want. Yeah, exactly. But some amazing stuff there. And like I said, I'm probably going to be posting another video in the near future, just going over how to use websites to your advantage when you're just getting started, to look and see if you pair these type of geckos, what's it going to potentially produce. It's not an exact formula, but when you're looking at how a breeder should be tracking lineage and posting that information, Paige is my inspiration. It's what I base my website off of. And so I definitely recommend you go check that out as well. So thank you so much, Paige, for your time today and coming on the podcast. You were one of the people I definitely wanted to get on. So thank you so much
for having me, Bobby. This has been a blast. I've had a lot of fun. Like I was telling you before, I've never done anything like this. I was a little nervous. I'm like, I don't really like interviews, but it's been a lot of fun and I've really enjoyed it. So thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate. I'm glad you had fun, because that's all we're doing. We're just chatting geckos. We're not solving, any kind of world hunger here. And I guarantee I'm going to have you back one of these days. Maybe after I buy my first Chewy from you, we'll do a Chewy.
I'd love to be back.
All right, but thank you so much. That'd be great. All right, you guys have a great rest of your day. Again, please like, subscribe, do all that fun mumbo jumbo that YouTube loves, and go check out episode 3 if we still are doing the giveaway. I'm giving away a gecko at 500 subscribers, and then I'm giving in one of my geckos at 1,000 subscribers. See you guys soon in Gecko Cove. Hey, if you've enjoyed this video and want to encourage me to make more gargoyle gecko content, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, share this with a friend, and maybe check out one of the videos right over there. I'll see you next time on Gecko Cove.